Welcome to Working On It. I'm Dr. A and I'm a clinical psychologist aiming to make your life just a bit more manageable. Remember, the tools and the tidbits that you pick up on this channel are purely educational. They can't replace therapy, but with some practice, they can help you along in your daily life. So let's get started. Today is part 2 of getting over any fear that you might have. If you didn't watch part 1 last time, it's very important to be able to catch up to speed to what we're doing today. So stop this video if you haven't watched part 1, go back and give that a quick watch, and then come back and join us again. So last time we talked about avoidance being the absolute enemy. It feels so good, and I hate it to be the bearer of bad news, but even though it feels good, it creates really big problems in the long term that are much more difficult to solve. And guess what? That's why probably all of us are here today watching this video, because we did avoid one too many times, and now we have a pretty serious issue on our hands. So regardless of what your fear is, we will be talking about today how to attack the avoidance that we've been engaging in and start to feel better. I will teach you something called a fear and avoidance hierarchy, which I want you to, when this video is over, make your own hierarchy, and I will teach you what that means. Okay. Do you guys like my faces? I'm a very bad drawer, so I just wanted you to know that this took me a little while, surprisingly. Okay, so you see these numbers here. This is a version of a fear and avoidance hierarchy, something I would do with a patient in session, which is take the fear that you have, take one specific fear, and this whole list will be to address one fear. So, many people have different fears. Take one specific fear that you would like to work on, and we will be doing this fear and avoidance hierarchy. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these numbers on the side, and we have to understand what these numbers mean. We, in my field, call these SUDs. Not bathtub suds, but they stand for something. So SUD. SUDs stand for subjective units of distress, because distress is subjective to all of us, and we are going to rate that distress from 1 to 10. So a 1 would be, kind of as you see by the smiley face here, I can handle a 1 of anxiety. I can handle a 2 of anxiety. 3, it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable, but I can handle that. I'm okay. Right? As it moves up, we get more and more distressed, more and more anxious, more and more fearful, until we get to 8, 9, 10, where I'm so anxious, I feel like my head's gonna pop off my body like a grape, so help, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the one fear that I'm talking about, whatever that fear is for you, and we are going to start to think of behaviors within that fear. That might be a 1, and that might be a 5, that might be a 10. You don't have to go completely in order, and make sure you're doing it with a pencil, because you might want to erase and be like, actually that's a 7, and things like that. We are going to start to put this together. So for me, like I shared with you guys last time, I have a big fear of flying. And so, that last video I made for you guys 2 videos ago, where I said I'm going to be taking a break because I am trying to travel and fly more so that I don't avoid and actually start to address my fear, right? So if I were doing this hierarchy, a 1 might be watching a movie with an airplane in it, or watching a movie even with an airplane scene that they have a little bit of turbulence. That would be a 1 or 2, not a big deal. Maybe a little bit higher is watching an airplane in the sky and imagining myself in it. Now, toward the middle, oh God, would be booking a flight. So scary, right? A little bit higher than that for me, maybe like a 6 or 7 would be packing and knowing it's the night before and that I have no owl, I have to go, right? And then as the numbers get higher for me here, it would be getting to the airport, right? It would be maybe even driving to an airport as an exercise and going home, right? Like if I wanted to practice. And then an 8, 9, 10 would be actually being, I hate that little hallway. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, that little hallway that leads to the airplane. I'm like, oh God, this is my chance to turn around. So in that hallway, maybe a 9 is like being on an airplane with really, really bad turbulence and the pilot isn't talking to us. And then 10 might be something like being in severe turbulence, and even the flight attendants look scared, right? But most of my list would be something that I could actually do, right? So, like I said, even the higher up is I might write something like drive to the airport, and I might practice driving to the airport. Maybe even something down here, a little bit on the higher end, but definitely like a 4 where I feel the anxiety, might be just watching takeoffs on YouTube. I might just want to do that, watch takeoffs over and over and over again. Or watch scary flights. I think I watched one time like scary landings. Okay, let's do some other fears and see what we could do. So let's say you have social anxiety, right? A 1 might be, standing on your deck or balcony and knowing that people can see you and just watching people walk by or watching a group of people. That might be a 1, right? Not a big deal. Somewhere a little bit higher might be actually making plans with someone, right? Maybe it's making plans with one person is down here, making plans with multiple people is up here, agreeing to a party is up here, right? Engaging in conversation with 3 people might be here, but it's 3 people you know. Engaging in conversation with 1 person you don't know might be up here. Walking up to a group of people, now that might be up here. You want to write most of the things on this list are things that you could actually do, that you could actually practice. And what you're doing is you're ranking them in order from something that gives you the least anxiety to something that you can't even imagine yourself doing. Right? Let's do one more. Let's say you're scared of sharks and you're scared of going in the water and what might bite you or get you. So you just avoid beaches in general. Something right here would be, God, like watching maybe something, like I said, a movie or YouTube video where it gives you a little bit of anxiety to watch it. Maybe you're watching sharks swim in the water, but you feel the distance from it, you're at home, you're comfortable. That might be something down here. Now, agreeing to go to the beach with somebody, making plans and telling yourself, no matter what, I'm not backing out. Or telling your friend, listen, I'm actually really nervous to go to the beach. Don't let me back out. That might be a little bit higher. Settling your stuff on the sand, right? And now you're there. You can't back out. Okay, that might be a little bit higher. Now, actually going in the water, we start to creep up. But maybe you go to your ankle, and that's your 6, let's say, right? You go to your ankle. Then you go a little bit higher, then all the way up to maybe a 9 or 10, which is really swimming, where maybe you can't touch the ground and maybe the water's murky and you don't see anything. And that's your ultimate test. Why are we putting ourselves in positions that we know these are meant to make us anxious? Whether it's a 3 of anxiety, a 5, a 7, or a 10, these are putting ourselves on purpose in positions in increasing order to make ourselves anxious. Why? Well, good question. First of all, we're trying to not avoid. That's the only way to get over fears. There's no other magical way. Maybe hypnosis. God, would that cost so much? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. This is unfortunately the hardest route, is the only route. So we're trying to not avoid, but what happens is something pretty magical. Your brain has convinced you that this is the most terrifying thing. And when you listen to your brain goes, see, I was right. Thank God you listened to me. The sky would fall. You would have been eaten. You would have been stuck in that elevator forever, right? You never have a chance to disprove what your brain is saying. But moving up the ladder this way, something very interesting happens. If you sit long enough in that anxiety, your mind goes, I guess I was wrong. You get to disprove the stories, so creative stories, that your mind creates. If you just sit in it long enough, if you sit in that 7 long enough, it drops down to maybe a 5. Maybe it drops down to a 4. Your brain gets disproven and then it sort of gets bored. We call this habituating. It literally just habituates, gets used to, is another way of saying, of being in that situation. It sees, actually, I'm okay in this situation. I thought I wouldn't be, but I am okay in this situation. right? So that 7, when you come back to it next time, since you sat in it long enough for it to drop, the next time you visit it, it might not be a 7. The next time you visit it, it might be a 5. And if you stay in that 5 long enough, it might drop down to a 3. So this 5 that you never thought that you would ever make yourself do or could do because it was too scary, when you visit it now, is a 3, is a 2, is a 1. The more you move up this ladder, this starts to feel like nothing. When you're up here, you're like a 3. I wish I could do a 3. That's a 0 for me now, right? So the trick is to do the behavior, but don't avoid by leaving too soon, okay? Feel the anxiety and know that it's temporary. Stay in it long enough for the anxiety to drop down naturally. Because if you run away too soon, that's still avoidance. Stay in it as long as it takes for you to go, okay. Stay in that water. Let's say it's sharks, right? Or something touching you in the water. Stay in that water long enough to your ankles where that 3 is a 1. Go up to here long enough where you truly, you're not like, okay, I did it. No. Stay in it however many seconds, minutes you need to for it to drop down just a little bit. Then you could say, okay. The next time you come back to it, your brain will feel like, okay, we already did this. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it is safe or okay. All right? So, write it exactly like this. Fill in your hierarchy, just like I said, write with pencils so you can revise if you need to. And then one by one, start to knock this off. You don't have to do it all in one day. Let's not do that. Let's go maybe one a day, one every other day, however you want to do it. Give yourself a break in the middle and have a little party for yourself for doing it in the first place. But ultimately, you want to stay in it long enough and you want to move up the hierarchy little by little by little till you're doing the big boy stuff, the big girl stuff, right? All the way up here. Yeah? Give this a try. Notice what you're avoiding, create your hierarchy, start to move up and practice with it, and you will start to get over the fears that you never thought you could before. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday, and in the next video, we're going to take a turn away from our fears, and we're going to be talking about what it means to be in the moment, why that is of such massive importance, why do people talk about being in the moment and being present, and how to actually start to think about it and apply it to your real life. Until then, you got this. See you next time.